Welcome to this month's episode of Interview with an Evolver, and I'm stoked to be chatting to the legendary Brendon Giebel. How are you today, Brendon?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to showcase all of the incredible growth you've had over the last few years and the impact you're having in the world is so inspiring to watch from the sidelines. For those who haven't met you before, or maybe those who have, can you just walk us through the journey of what your career path was before you got into this world and then now what you're doing?
Yeah, so before I got into this, actually how I heard about it, I was in construction. We did a lot of civil projects, so bridges and concrete works and that kind of stuff. And I was actually working down in Adelaide back in 2008 or 2009. Um, and I was kind of been on a bit of a journey, and I was obviously working with a lot of men in the industry, and so they were like, I was always like, you should do this and helping them, and then someone said you should look at these people, and it was Paul, and he gave me Paul's number. And so I was in construction from then, and then I did that course, and then I think it was, or that was NLP, and I think 12 months after that, that's when I did master prac, and then I went full time into my business. So yeah, before that it was in construction, and I'm so glad. Like I look outside now and I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm not working out in the hot sun anymore.
I know I work so hard, different hard to how you're working now, I suppose. So your business is advanced men's development. And can you talk a little bit about now the impact you're having and what it's grown to since that time?
Yeah, so I did a lot of one-on-ones to start with.
Mm.
I'd helped over 1,000 men, well, have helped over 1,000 men one-on-ones. And it got to a point early last year where I was like, I'm sick of this. Like I'm drained. I was doing, 50 hours a week in just in client sessions, and had the sales calls and all that kind of stuff. And then for a bit of the time there, I was like, how can I take what I do with one-on-ones and make it go one to many and get the same results? And so like it took a lot of effort and planning and stuff for me to get that. And now we've switched probably mid last year to doing live events and programs and stuff as well. So we have our first actual in-person live event in March this year. So that'll be good. We've got retreats and all that kind of stuff coming up as well that are already booked in and all that. But predominantly everything's online at the moment too. But yeah, it was a big shift to go from one-on-one to one to many, and I think it was just a natural progression for me. But I'm so glad it did, and we obviously can reach so many more people now, and the results that the men have been able to get in just a few days is absolutely incredible. And it's like that our growth, we've from when we started these events, it's 11x that, and it keeps growing. Like every event just doubles and doubles and doubles, and I think it's because of the results that and the tools that I've learned from you guys. It's allowing them to get amazing results. So yeah, it's definitely a journey. It's come a long way. So in such a short time.
So, what are you seeing in the time that you've been doing it? Obviously, I think working one on one, you got those runs on the board, you got experience, you got the credibility of like, I've worked with over 1,000 people individually. And then now, what are you seeing in, I suppose, the world and society in terms of the men that are seeking out your events and the transformations they're desiring and getting?
I get it. There's a lot of men that have just been broken up with, divorced, or anything like that. And it's like, I get that they say the same thing. I should have done something years ago, or she was telling me to do something. And I think you'd probably know it in your events too. It's like most of the events I've been to, personal development, all that, like it's slowly evening out now, but it was 50 to 90% females. So I think females have done so much work, and so now men are getting left behind. And I think we're seeing a lot of those where it's just like I can't communicate. Like it feels like, because as you know, if we don't grow together, we grow apart. And I think that that's the thing that's happening. Men are like, I need to do something. The traditional system, in my opinion, is broken, so they don't get the results. They don't know who to see or where to go. And so then something just pops up, and they're like, this is for me. And I think it's someone that's a bit more aware. It's like they know that there's more there. They know that they're not just this physical body. They know that there's something out there, but they're just not quite sure what that is. So they're the type of people we come in. It's like very early in their personal development journey, which is amazing because it's like we that we can help them, and then they start on this path, and then they bring other people on this path. Like it's amazing.
That's so cool. And it's so important. And yeah, I agree. I mean, we're starting to see greater percentages of men coming to our trainings, which I would say is then they'd probably, 2 or 3 steps after the intro of where they come and see you and start working on themselves, people who are really wanting to do the trainings themselves and get the skills themselves to then maybe look at coaching. So it's a different level. And I think that statement you made of like, why didn't I do something sooner? Or she was telling me that I need to. Why do you think, and I'm going to make a generalization, but why do you think in relationship there, because I see on the other side a lot of women who are sad and frustrated, and they're like, I know he's got this potential, but it's like while we're together, he's comfortable and he's not going to change. And then the moment they break up, the men are forced to kind of dig in and look inwards and go, okay, now I'm going to start looking at this stuff. Why do you think it has to get to the breaking point?
I think it's exactly like what you're saying. It's the comfort. It's like they're like, oh, nothing really much is changing, this and that, and it's not until something happens. It's like anything. Like most people, something big or something significant needs to happen for them to go, oh, I need to do something now. And so I think for a lot of men, that's that point. But I think it's just the change. It's like, why change? Like, because it is not the most pleasant experience, right? Diving in and finding all those wounds and those dark spots and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's an element of ego that comes into it too, because your ego, not in a egotistic sense, but more of a like your ego's there to protect you. So it's like, let's not go into that. Like you're okay. That little voice in the back of your head that's going like, it'll be all right. Don't worry about it. This and that. And so a combination of those things, and then it's just like, well, let's just keep putting it off. And then it's not until that something happens that then they go, all right, now it's time.
Yeah. So I want to rewind a little bit. And a lot of people watching this are already studying with us or looking to study with us. I'm curious for you because it seemed like from the outside in, you built a name for yourself as a coach in the industry and you built credibility quite quickly. What were some of the key points and key steps you took to build your leadership in the industry?
I think the first one was just helping a lot of people and then asking for reviews. Like at the end of the sessions, I would be like, hey, are you open to putting some words together for me? And so I just get it there and then on the Zoom call, and then send it to the team and cut it up and all that stuff. So that gave me a lot of credibility, because it was like all these people, people say, oh, I've had amazing results and this and that. And you might say, oh, can you send me some words or some testimonials or something? And then you don't get anything. So for me, that was good. Like I've got hundreds of videos from men we've helped, and it was because here on the Zoom call, it's like, do you want to say some words? So that was the first thing, is to get social proof. And I think too, it was just get really good at what you're doing so you can get good results. Like when I first started, I was reviewing every client session I did. Like it was a bit harder when I didn't have time to do it. But when I first started, I was like reviewing I'm like, what can I do different?
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was like, I want to help this person as quick as I can. Like I want to sign them up for, at the time I was doing like 13 sessions. I was like, I want to help them and get everything done in like 3 or 4 sessions. And then we get to the end and be like, there's nothing else to work on. Like that was my intention. And I think from that, it gave me a really good level of integrity of like, this is the standard that I set for myself.
Yeah.
And I think because I was putting out that energy, it was just coming back to me, obviously. So I think those things, it was like, and then just like, I think being present on social media and consistent,
Yeah.
I think helps. Like, for me personally, like, we don't really get too much business from social media directly. I think it's good to promote the brand. Uh, So if someone comes and searches us, like we're on 5 or 6 different platforms now, so they'll see lots of different things. I think that's really good for credibility, awareness, and that kind of stuff as well. And yeah, they're the real main things. I think people just want to be able to see that you've got good results, and so if you can show them testimonials, like I think that's the biggest thing to get social proof and get the brand out there.
I agree. And I think the video testimonials, as opposed to a written one, conveys so much more as well. And I know you also wrote several books. Like from my perspective, I feel like you just went, okay, what are all the factors that are required to build credibility as a coach? Why not just do all of them? And I think that's really important because people are going to have different convinces at different stages. And so if you can just meet all of them, then it's like a no-brainer that you're a leader in men's development work. And that's where people feel safe to go. And one thing I think with your branding is also really simple and clear, and it communicates like this space where there's no judgment there, because there is a bit of a stigma, still a hangover, I think, from the last few decades of men doing that kind of work. And then there's also, what have you noticed? Because there's also what I see, and I don't know if I see what you see because maybe the algorithm doesn't target me, but Paul has mentioned it to me as well, is like there's also a lot of different men's work where it's maybe a lot more, spiritual, or it's a lot more circles and speaking. And what is your edge? What's your point of difference in the men's work that you're doing?
Yeah. So I say this, and this, when I say this, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, it makes so much sense. Like there's a lot of that out there, right? Like nothing, it works for some people, but to me, painting yourself, dancing around a fire, hugging trees isn't going to shift the things that you need to. Like for some people, that's an amazing experience. Cool. Like they can go do it. To me, it's probably not the most effective. Also, then you've got the complete other side, which is very like masculine, very like, let's go beat the shit out of everyone in, military style camps and stuff. And I'm like, that kind of led to this suppression. Like, I think there's better ways to build mental strength. So you've got those two, and everything's perfectly balanced, right? So there's got to be that middle way. And so that's where we target. It's like we bring in a bit of that spiritual thing. One of my coaches is very, very spiritual, and I had a big reject towards that. And so I was like, he triggers me, but I want to go in there. He's probably not overly spiritual, but for me, he was. So and I'm integrating some of this to bring it to it. And before I was kind of heading down this way, or wanting to, like that was my target. But then I feel like I'm in a nice spot now, like right down the middle. And I think that's why it just resonates so much with people. And I think it's like, it's not about, I feel like men are really looking for some kind of role model, or they're looking for some kind of guidance, or some help that's, there. And I think they'll stick to things. And I think that's why some people who are fairly well known, maybe a bit more on this side, are getting so much attention, is because it's like, oh, this person, it speaks true, and they can follow that person. So I think the difference that we bring is bringing it straight down the middle, and we bring in elements that we need to, but it's not one way or the other. And I've noticed that sometimes some people that go down this way completely reject the spiritual side, because we are a spiritual being, right? So you can't neglect it. And so then that just adds to more problems, because you can't use force to always try and get over things. So that's the difference that I take now. And yeah, it's been quite amazing to see the difference and how it brings into, like, we definitely probably, like, I know a lot more of what's happening here, but I don't necessarily bring it, because if someone's only new, they'll be like, well, that's a bit too much. And then if we need to be strong, if we need to say, stop doing that, or whatever, then we go down this path if we need to.
Yeah. Awesome. So, quick question. Some new coaches starting out experience imposter syndrome, like feeling like, oh, I've still got so much stuff to work on myself. You said that men are looking for a role model. That's a big kind of statement to make. How do you balance being that role model, but also maintaining this balance in this middle road?
Yeah, I think too, it's like you can, or anyone, they can help. If you've worked through some kind of challenge, then you can help them work through that. It's like, I think, just look at where you are, or whoever, and then look down, and or even that level, you can help someone. So it's like, there's people that I would say, perception wise, like, have been on this path for longer, and I would be like, of course I'd have imposter syndrome if I was trying to help them. But if you've done something, then you're quite credible to, help them. I think a lot of people think that they have to have all of their shit together to be able to help everyone. Like, they have to be like, I have to be perfect in every single area of my life. But that's quite unrealistic, really. So I think it's just one thing. I think most people suffer from it at some level. I think it's just to remember, it's like, cool, like, I don't have to help everyone right now. I just want to help someone who's below me, or like that has the problem that kind of I work through, or I've been through.
Yeah, 100%. And so then what advice would you have for new coaches starting out?
Firstly, I would say prepare yourself, because business is hard
Yeah.
ish. It's like it's 95% of people fail. I think too, continuing to do your work on yourself, it
Yeah.
never stops. Um, Tony Robbins says it's 80% psychology. So I think continuing to do the work, like I live and breathe this, and I prioritize my day now to make sure that I do everything for me, like my growth, my development, and everything, and then business comes afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen a massive jump in that from doing that. So really prioritize yourself, but also set yourself up and go, you know what? Things aren't going to happen really, really quickly. Like I made in the first 8 months, I made hardly anything. And so I think having realistic expectations of go, cool, like I'm going to knuckle down and just give this my all, and understand that it might take 3 years. It might take before I really start seeing results. That would be my first thing, is just to have like realistic expectations around it. The second is, I think, is to really find someone else's community that you can leverage, or whether that be a referral partner, whether that be, like collaborate with someone who's already a bit further down the path, even if you just show up and crew for them, and or be part of their community. I think that's a really good way. Like just be known, like not with the intention to take from them, but to give, and then people will see you and come back. So I think like it's hard to build it from the start, and just
Mm.
posting on social media isn't really going to cut it. I think, you know, go out and make conversations, because that's the thing that needs to happen. Like have conversations in whatever way that can be. But I think referrals, like trying to connect with some people and really getting clear on who you're actually targeting. I think there's a lot of people like, oh yeah, I can help this person, this person, but find out exactly who your ideal avatar is, create an offer that's almost irresistible for them, and then just go out and market it and sell it. That's the 3 steps. And then find out where your ideal client is, and go get that. Whether they're, if they're someone that's always in the gym, then go to some gym owners or some personal trainers and try and collaborate or something. And leverage the personal training industry. Or that's just an example. So that would be my few tips for that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And a moment ago, you said prepare yourself because this business is hard. 95% of people fail. What would you say are the hardest things, or the things that you've seen stop other coaches?
Um, I think probably a lack of ability to stay at it.
Yeah.
I think also thinking that social media is the way
Yeah.
and the only way. And putting a few posts up and just expecting people to go, oh yeah, I really want to work with you. What I found personally is it wasn't until about the 3 year mark where then people that I used to work with and stuff, and were like, wow, he's been doing it for 3 years. There must be something, he must be doing something all right. Then I've had heaps of people reach out to me from then. So I think
It's like a
it,
snowball. If you have that staying power and they're like, wow, okay, he's still doing it. He must be good at it. And then obviously you've got that credibility building. I agree. It doesn't just happen. But also the seeds that you're planting of all the stuff, even though you're not reaping it straight away, it's out there, and you've just got to connect to that. So yeah, I agree.
yeah.
Anything else? What else?
Um,
What else is hard?
what else is hard? what's what's not quite easy? I think there's a difference between being a good coach and then also being a good business owner. And a
Yes.
lot of coaches, they want to go out and coach,
Yeah.
whereas a lot of them don't want to necessarily do a lot of the aspects in business. Um, so for me, and like I've had a few clients that really want to start doing what I'm doing and this and that. I'm like, cool, you can. My advice would be like, if you want to, like, come in and let work inside my business, because it's so much easier.
Yeah.
Then, like, if you just want to coach, so that is another area too. Like, maybe find someone, if there is someone that's got spaces and stuff to come in and collaborate, and you leverage their community, same thing, right? Rather than having to do that. So I think it's getting really clear though on the whole aspect of business, because you don't just have coaching. You've got sales, you've got marketing, you've obviously got finance, you've got admin, you've got all those different areas, and so it's tough to manage them to start with.
Yeah.
um and I think the best thing really is to just find out what you really like and find out what you don't, and try and outsource that as soon as possible. So then you don't have to keep doing it. And I think the more that people can, I think the more people can really just understand to do it for that it's in for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's like Kerwin Ray said to me, it takes, I think, 7 years for a business to reach $1 million. And so he's like, if you've been in business for like 2 years, instead of going, I've been doing this for 2 years, say, I've still got 5 left.
Yeah.
And that was like a big pre-frame for me, where I was like, or reframe, I was like, wow, like took so much pressure off. So yeah, that didn't really quite answer your question of what else is hard, but that's another thing that
I think it was great. And I agree. The skills that make a great coach don't necessarily make a great business owner. And I think there's a lot of passionate coaches who they're resisting, doing all of the rest of the things to help themselves thrive in that way. But I think it's an opportunity for growth as well, which everything is, where you can kind of coach yourself to develop things and then again outsource the things that you don't actually enjoy doing. I think that's a really good tip. And I think it's okay to say like this is hard, because for me it's like, yeah, it's challenging, but some of the best things, the most rewarding things are those things that are challenging. If it was just all easy, everyone would be doing it. And you're right, like there are coaches that come and go, but I've got in my kind of awareness 20 or 30 people that I have just been seeing their stuff for 5 to 10 years, and I'm like, they're staying, they're the ones that are standing out and are different. And and I think it's great. And it's been so inspiring to see your journey. I'd love to know anything else, I suppose, that you might have told yourself when you were still working in construction. What would you have said to you if you could see what you've now built?
What would I say to myself back then?
And that Brendon that was working just down the road from where we live in
Yeah.
Adelaide on the overpass, I think it was.
Um, I don't know. He definitely, like, I'm a completely different person. Like he wouldn't recognize me, I don't think. But I would say, like, there's more to this. There's more to this game of life.
Yeah.
And just keep asking the questions, keep peeling off different layers, and that would be my main thing. I would say, I think, just there's more to this. There's more to this.
Yeah. And what do you remember? I'm just curious because I wasn't there, but what do you remember from that first phone conversation with Paul?
Um, I think I would just was saying what I wanted to do, and he's like, "This would really help you," and I'm like, "Okay, cool." I'm so easy to sell, too. Yeah. And so he was like, "This will really help you," and I'm like, "Okay, cool, let's do it."
Yeah.
I actually said this story is like, I didn't have the money, and it was like, but I said yes, and I was like, I put the deposit down. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it, and this and that, and the next one was in Perth, and so I had to fly down into Perth. And I was staying at a backpackers. I'm like, the best I could do was at a backpackers that just around the corner. And so I would get home, and my mind during the training would get exploded. And then I'd have to try and sit it back together in an 8-bed room, people with 8 people in there trying to study. But I wouldn't change it for a thing. It was like, I it's like imperfect action. It's like, just say yes, figure it out along the way. And it's so funny. It's like the universe will reward you for that. And it did. Like, that wasn't, if I waited until I had enough money for that, I wouldn't be where I am right now. So I think that is one thing, is like, just keep going, and you don't have to be ready. You don't have to be perfect to be, and that comes back to your question with imposter syndrome, is you don't have to wait until you're perfect, or you feel like you're perfect in different areas to start. It's like, just start. Our events too, like, I always just go, let's do it. Like, we might have our first one, I think we had like our first 3-day event, we had 6 people. In my head, I wanted like 15 or 20, but we had 6. I'm like, I don't care, I'm still running it. And I'm so glad I did, because if I didn't, then it probably would never have happened. So I think for me, yeah, that was quite important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights and wisdom, some business advice, some tips for new coaches. And it's so cool. And I look forward to seeing your journey continue to grow. And yeah, thank you. Any final parting words?
Um, No, I would just actually like to say thank you to you and to Paul as well, because like I get to come back and study again a little bit more with some shadow work and stuff, which I'm super excited about. But without the two of you, like from everything that I've learned, it's been amazing, and I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't cross paths with you. So I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you both for that.
Thank you. Well, thank you for going on the ride and exploring and expanding. And then, for us, the biggest thanks is what you're doing. The biggest thanks is what you actually do with the tools and the skills and using them and improving your life and having that ripple effect. And you're doing that. And that's the greatest gratitude. And I'm so excited for Shadow Dynamics. I was saying to Jade actually yesterday and Steve that they work with us. I was like, the amount of stuff that is unraveling for us in the process of Paul building shadow dynamics. It's almost like, and this always happens when he teaches shadow work in Master Prac. We always have about a week before where there's like these things. So we've got Master Prac, he's teaching shadow work next week and he's building shadow dynamics. So it's like it's on steroids for us right now, but it feels really cathartic. Like it feels like there's this not purging, but like there's all of this stuff just coming to light. And we're both in this space of like, oh, hello, shadow. Oh, hello. Okay, let's integrate and absorb that now. And it's like almost like when you get the level ups in a video game, where like, like each one that we're integrating, we can feel ourselves just, expanding. And I'm excited for you to be in it. And it's a really cool group, obviously, because it's master practitioners only as well, because of the prerequisite knowledge. So yeah, we're stoked to have you on board in that. And just seeing you doing the work that you're doing that's so meaningful in the world and helping these men develop themselves and be that more balanced expression of who they are and create better relationships, connections, success, opportunities, health. All of the ripple effect of that is so profound. So yeah, keep shining your light, and thank you so much for sharing your world with us. Super inspiring. So comment below on this video what you took away from it, and I'll also put all of Brendon's contact details below so that you can find out more about his events and reach out to him or his team if you are wanting to get into his world. So thank you so much, Brendon.
My pleasure. Thank you.